again. What's your full name?
John F. Potanovic.
And your birth date?
3/21/25.
All right. And tell me where you were born.
Born in Yonkers, New York.
How long did you live there?
Uh,
Up to the surface or after?
yeah, through the service, yeah. Until I got married, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So where were you and when did you decide to join up?
Well, December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day, was on a Sunday. And of course, you didn't have telecommunication the way you have now. So a lot of it was wireless and telegram. And we found out that the Japanese, who were negotiating for a peace treaty in Washington, bombed our naval base at Pearl Harbor. That was, we never heard of Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was a naval base in Oahu, Hawaii. Hawaii wasn't a state, of course, at that time. So little by little we found out about it, and I was a junior in high school. The next day we went to high school. President Franklin Roosevelt made his famous speech, Day of Infamy, and we declared war on the Japanese, because we lost about 3,000 people and a lot of ships and planes, yeah. So it was really a wide awakening, the way things were going at that time.
Indeed.
So we went to school the next day, which of course was a Monday, and Roosevelt made a speech, and the principal had it piped into every classroom. And at the end of the day, a bunch of us decided, hey, we're going to join the service for our country. And we were very patriotic in those days. We went to parades and things like that. And so a bunch of us went down to New York City to join the service. We were going to join the Marines, of course, but the Marine line was too long, so we decided on the Navy. That's how I started my naval career. So I went home and told my mother that I joined the Navy. She was kind of upset about it. She said, "You're too young." And then, because I forged my birth certificate, I did a little whiteout on the date and changed the date. And so that's how I got into the service.
You were how old?
I was 16 at the time, but I had to wait till I was 17. Yeah.
So that was a few months later, right?
Yeah.
Once you turned 17,
yeah, we got called, and we went to boot training in Newport, Rhode Island, for about I think it was about 8 weeks, and we got when we graduated, just before we graduated, we were told that we could have different. Go to different schools that the Navy offered at the time. So my father was an electrician, God bless him, and so I says, maybe go to electrical school, maybe when I got to the Navy I could be an electrician. Mm-hmm. So I got my wish. I went to Iowa State College, Ames, Iowa, and went there for about, I would say 3 months, 2 months, something like that, and graduated. And just before we graduated, the chief petty officer came through the dormitory of the college, and he would say, we need 18 submarine veterans for submarine volunteers. So next day came around, he says, I need 14 volunteers. So I finally stopped him. I says, Chief, I says, what's this with submarine school? Well, he says, you go to New London, Connecticut for training if you pass, and that's how you get into the submarine service.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. I said, where do I go? He said, go to the sick bay, have your preliminary physical, and so that's how I started. I took my physical, I passed. He said, now you take a more serious physical when you get to New London. And so I went through the air ballast tank pressure test. I passed that. A lot of people didn't pass that because their ears popped on them and they couldn't, they didn't want to take the pain of the against their eardrums. You go put it in a big tank with a bunch of other sailors, and if you wanted to get out, you just raised your hand and they stopped it. And
Like in the water?
no, this was in a big tank, a big pressurized tank, yeah.
Okay, so is it like being
And the water test came later on.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a 100-foot tower, and we started off at 18 feet, 25 feet, then down to 50 and down to 100, and you were in a air compressed lock, and they let you out. And you were told to grab the rope out in front of you, and that rope had knots on it, and at each knot you stopped on your ascent to the surface, and just took a couple of breaths. I mean, a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds rather, just rest so you don't get decompressed. Yeah. So it was quite an experience.
I bet it was.
I always loved to take chances anyway. So yeah. So that was my beginning of my submarine service.
You like taking chances, probably as you were growing up. You did a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
that.
yeah. We were a wild crew in those days.
What are some of the things that you remember doing?
Well, we did a lot of things that we weren't so proud of. Yeah, purloining somebody else's property.
Purloin.
Purloined. Yeah, I use that word purloined. Everybody said they never heard of it. I says, yeah, that's a word. Look out in the dictionary. Instead of stealing, you call it purloined. So, talking about purloining, when I was in San Francisco, I had a friend of mine that was on the boat with us, got married, and I was the best man. So we went to the top of the Mark Hopkins Hotel, which is a famous hotel in those days. It's only about 14 stories high, but it was well known. And there was a nice little lamp on the table and had a pea coat on. The pea coat was a winter coat.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I wanted to take the lamp. It started off on their wedding gifts. So I took the lamp, I put it under my pea coat, took it out, and when I got into the lobby, this guy about 6'4", 300 pounds, tapped me on the shoulder. He says, "Sailor," he says, let's not make any big deal about this. He said, just take what you have under your pea coat and leave it on the table and take off. So he was the house detective. He watched me all the while, you know. So it was quite.
It's kind of hard to hide something like that
Yeah,
under your
and then we went to a
coat.
Chinese restaurant, because there's lots of them in San Francisco. And just, of course, we had a few drinks by then, and on the way out, they decided to take a chair, just a normal chair. So I started down the street with it, and the Chinese fella started chasing me. So I start running, and I finally said, I better drop this chair and get the heck out of here. And he's screaming in all expletives in Chinese. Yeah. So I started my friend off on his wedding day. But I had quite a good career. I liked athletics. I played semi-pro softball, traveling teams, and played third base. And when I was in the Navy, I played third base too for our Navy team. So athletics, baseball, softball, football, and basketball. So I had quite a good life. I can't complain. God was good to me, and here I am, 96 years old. If I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself when I was younger. But that's what Mickey Mantle said. Yeah. So.
Well, I think you look really good.
Yeah. Then I started off going to submarine school, and I was in a class that was going to go on the USS Dorado, which is a submarine, and the night, a couple of nights before our graduation, I went into town and I had a few drinks, and I was all ready to go back to New London. I was walking down to the cab stand at the railroad station, and I met a Coast Guardsman. He said, "Hey, sailor," he said, "did you hear about the new drink?" I said, "No," I said, I haven't heard about the new drink. What's it called? He says, "It's called a zombie." Oh, I said, "So that doesn't sound too good to me." So he says, "Come on, we try it." He says, "There's a big sign up in the tavern, not responsible for anyone that drinks over 3 zombies." It was a drink with everything in it. Had all sorts of liquors and liqueurs, and so I went up there with the sailor and from New London. The Coast Guard base was in New London too, and we had a few drinks and went back down to the taxi cab, and it was a brand new Cadillac. Of course, cars weren't built during the war. And the guy says, "I just got this car this week." He says, "You can see I have wooden bumpers on it. Here's a big Cadillac with wooden bumpers," because they were using chrome for the war effort. So you saw a lot of stuff that used to be chrome, and they put other things in it. So he sat me right behind his seat, the driver's seat. He says, "What guys want anything?" He says, "You want to go to the bathroom or anything? Just let me know and I'll stop." And it was about a 3-mile ride out to the base, sub-base. And so we got in the cab, and I sat behind him. It was a drop seat, like behind him, and about halfway up to the base, somebody said, "Put the heat up higher." So he put the heat up higher, and boy, I just felt sick, and I did before I got out of the car. I whoopsied all over the driver and everything, and boy, he started cursing and everything. The other guy started cursing me, of course, because he said, "I'm going back, I have to clean the car." So here we are, we had to walk about another couple of miles, or not, about a mile by that time. We were almost there, and the guys were cursing me upside down. And I'm throwing up, and so the next morning I got up early, took a shower, and we had calisthenics out in the parking lot. And we had a guy up on the roof of the school, and he was giving us directions for exercises. The last thing I remember was going up, jumping up in the air, and coming down, and next thing I have a bright light in my face.
Oh no.
I says, "What's the matter?" He says, "You're in sick bay." He says, "You you fainted. So what it was, I dehydrated. And they brought me into the sick bay, and they said, "Sailor, what's wrong?" He says, so I couldn't say I was drinking too much, even though the doctor knew it, but he didn't want to hear it. I says, "I had pork chops last night." "Oh," he says, "you got ptomaine poison." So he put me in the sick bay, and while I was there, I got pneumonia.
Really?
A case of pneumonia. So I was in sick bay about 2 weeks. Yeah, and before I got better. So now going back to school, I missed the Dorado class, and I was put in with the Archerfish class. So the group that was going to go on the Archerfish, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And the Archerfish came in from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I was sent aboard, and we left for Panama Canal and the Pacific, and when we got to Pearl Harbor, we were astonished to find so much damage to a naval base.
When was that you got there?
Oh, I would say sometime in the summer, I guess, early summer, yeah. And so we saw the battleships upside down, and the Arizona sunk, and just turmoil. And everybody was getting to work, cleaning the harbor out, getting the harbor ready. Of course, the sub base was a part of the harbor, and so that's how I got to Pearl Harbor.
So you were an electrician on board?
No, I was called a striker.
What's that?
In other words, I'm striking for that position, for electrician.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I went aboard the Archerfish, they didn't have any openings in the electrical gang. So they asked me if I wanted to go into the mechanical part of it, the diesel engines. So I did. I went through that, but because I studied about diesel engines in Ames, Iowa, too.
Okay.
Yeah. And eventually, I wound up as an oiler, and then I got an opening to go into the auxiliary gang, which is in the control room, the main part of the sub. So I took advantage of that, and I got away from all the noises, the diesels and everything, and got up where all the action took place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your official rank?
At that time, I was fireman second class. They had a rate fireman second. They don't have that anymore. They have all new rates now, technicians, because it's all nuclear now.
Yeah.
It's all entirely different Navy now. Yeah. The subs are like hotels, and of course, our boat was like a pig boat. We called it a pig boat. Yeah. So, but we didn't have the amenities that they have aboard the new subs. Yeah. And I took care of air conditioning, the pump system, high pressure air. It was a whole new beginning for me. And there was 4 of us in the gang. And the pump room was directly under the control room. So we were in the ballast of the submarine.
How large a crew? About 100?
We had 80.
80.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, 72 enlisted and 8 officers. So I said, we got to Pearl Harbor, and we did some trial runs, and we went out on our first patrol, which was off the South China Seas, someplace. And In all, I made 7 war patrols. That's all the Archerfish made before the war ended. And we got the presidential citation for sinking the largest ship ever sunk by a submarine, a 72,000-ton secret ship that the Japanese were building. And all the people that were working on it had to stay in the repair yard for from the time they started it to the time they almost finished it, because it was a secret ship. They didn't want anybody talking about it. What it was, we sank so many of their aircraft carriers that they had to build one on a battleship hull. That's what made it so heavy. It was going to be the super warship of all warships in the world. You know, had to carry more planes and everything else. So, but it came out of Tokyo Bay, and it was going to go into the inland sea for protection because our B-29 planes were starting to bomb Tokyo at that time. And so they got all their big ships out of Tokyo Bay and put them inland for more protection. But we were on about 9 p.m. one night, and the radar man picked up a blip about 30 miles away, and the captain says, "There's nothing there." He says, "There's no island there." Of course, 30 miles away, when you pick it up on radar, it has to be a big obstacle. I mean,
so he thought it was an island, but
yeah, he thought it was an island.
not on the map.
No island there, so we just kept tracking it, and we finally found out it was an aircraft carrier. And he looked in the book that the officers had. That was called Jane's Book of Ships throughout the world, and you go by the silhouette, you can tell what it is. So he just assumed it was a 27,000-ton aircraft carrier. That most of the carriers were in that tonnage, and we kept track of it. And he was doing. See, a submarine doesn't go as fast, of course, as a surface craft. So he was doing about 20 knots, and we were doing about 18. You know, and we finally got it up to about 19 knots. He says, put everything online. So he put the food mixer and everything else online. So we chased it from 9 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning, and it had, of course, had 4 escorts with it. And so it was zigzagging. They zigzag during the war.
Yeah.
You have a set course, then you go on either side of it, like back and forth. Yeah.
So I guess that's what helped you to catch up.
Yeah, yeah. And the captain figured he was going to make a zag, and so we went down to periscope depth, which was 62 feet, and we put 6 torpedoes into it, and an escort went right over us. We could hear the screws, you know, above it. And I think they had an idea there was a submarine in the area because they put a red light on. One of the ships had red lights blinking, so that might have been an alarm that the sub was in the area, you know. So we heard the repercussions of the torpedoes, and we counted six hits. So we assumed it went down, but we didn't find out till after the war, when the captain visited Japan, that the ship didn't sink till 10 o'clock the next morning. And the reason it sunk is because all the pumps were disconnected, and the watertight doors weren't watertight, so the water got in fast, and it still took that amount of time to sink, you know. And the captain went down with his ship, the Japanese captain, yeah. So it's quite an experience. We got the presidential citation for that. Yeah.
72,000 tons?
72,500, I think, yeah.
Wow.
Now, our main job at that time was picking up pilots. And we picked up a pilot of Iwo Jima. We were in the Battle of Iwo Jima. A fellow named Johnson. He was a lieutenant. And he was shot down by the Japanese. And so the captain took him aboard. He was in the Mae West life jacket at that time. That was the jackets that they used when they bailed out. And we picked him up, and the captain says, well, you're not going to get free ride. He said, you're going to stand lookout watches. So he put him up on the bridge to watch for different planes that were in the air, because they had the Japanese planes and the American planes in the air, you know, dogfights. And so radar picked up a plane 9 miles away, a blip. So he says to Johnson, he says, take your binoculars and take a look and see what that is. So he looked at that direction. Oh, he said, that's one of ours, Cap. He says, we're all right. So then it was 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles was coming right in at us, right over the water. So after we got, it was about a mile away, the captain says, no wonder you got shot down. He says, I could see the red circles on the plane. Dive, and he just dropped the bomb right on us, lifted us out of the water, and put some bullets in our conning tower from his gun. So the captain says, you blind bastard. He said, no wonder you got shot down. He says, so he put him on mess cook duty. He says, took him off lookout duty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to trust him again.
Yeah. So that was great. But we made a 6th and 7th patrol. The 7th patrol is when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. We were off Tokyo Bay at that time, and of course they didn't, we dropped 2 bombs. They didn't give up after the first bomb. So many people were killed. So after the second bomb, they gave up, and we were sent into Tokyo Bay to watch the signing by Douglas MacArthur of the surrender. And that was quite an experience for a young kid to go through that. Yeah. We had 12 submarines and the Proteus, which was a submarine tender. Of course, we had hundreds of ships in the bay. Tokyo Bay was a big bay. Yeah. So.
What do you think would you call your most memorable mission or patrol?
I would say it was it. That was my most memorable.
And or most dangerous.
The others where we just sank, tankers, 8,000-ton tankers and stuff like that. And then we had an incident where we nose is dripping here. We had we call battle surface. Battle surface is you use your deck gun. We had a deck gun, 3-inch deck gun.
Yeah.
So the captain, we found a fishing trawler. It wasn't big enough to use a torpedo on it, so we decided to try our deck guns. And of course, we had the aircraft guns too. Mm-hmm. So we surfaced, and we challenged the boat, of course. And what they used those boats for, they were like picket boats. They had a lot of communication on it. And if they saw a submarine, they would phone in or whatever they used for teletype in those days, and tell the base that there's a submarine at such and such a location. They send planes out. That was our worst worry, was an airplane, because they sneak up out of the sun.
Yeah.
They were taught how to come in on the sun, with the sun, and they were hard to find. You know, they were, lookout had a tough job. We had 3 lookouts: forward, forward, aft, and the beam. Yeah. And we had a very good crew. I was always proud of our crew. Good. Submarine crew is tightly knit, very tightly knit. They become like brothers after a while.
Yeah.
You know all about their lives, and of course you have a lot of time.
Especially being confined on
Yeah.
a small space.
Yeah, yeah. We ate good. We ate good for about the first couple of weeks. We got fresh food, and after that we got all frozen stuff. Yeah. But it was good food, very good food, the best in the Navy. And whenever you came in off Liberty, like if you wanted a sandwich, ice box was always open, as long as you cleaned it up. That's all the mess cook wanted, was to clean galley in the morning when he woke up to start breakfast. So we had what we call hot bunks, H-O-T. We had more men than we had bunks available. So when somebody got out of one bunk, somebody got right in it. So that's why it was always hot. And we slept in our clothes, because you always had to be ready for a battle. So we fired 99 rounds of ammunition into the trawler, or at it, rather. We missed a lot. And it finally went on fire, so it was sinking. And the guys got into their life rafts, the Japanese, and the captain asked them if they wanted to come aboard. Only one came aboard. So we took one Japanese prisoner, and we had to keep him under control at all times. We had to keep him manacled to a bunk in the after torpedo room.
Yeah, how long was he on board before?
He was on board before we got back to the base, and he was probably on board for about 2 weeks. So we got to know all about his life. He spoke a little English.
Okay.
Yeah. And he had a family. That's why he wanted to be rescued, you know. Whatever happened to the other ones, I don't know. They may got rescued by the Japanese themselves, but yeah. But it was quite an experience. And the depth charges were the things that scared the hell out of you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
How many times?
Because
did you have to,
well, we got depth charge 123 times by one destroyer. Yeah. And what it is, you hear a detonator go off first, and the louder the detonator, the closer the explosion is going to be. So you put lights out, and it does everything. You know, knocks the parts of the wall off and the bulkhead. Yeah.
Is it similar to what you see in some movies where if a depth charge hits pretty close, there's a lot of shaking?
Yes, yes. The lights go out. Lights go
water
out.
starts spraying.
Yes. Yeah, you get small leaks. Yeah, it was quite an experience.
How scared would you be?
Oh, I was scared.
I'm sure everybody
The
was.
first time I was depth charge, I was in the engine room at the time, and I went down in the and the bilges. And of course, we have silent running, had to keep quiet. And I was praying. I was praying my heart out that we could get through it, you know. Yeah.
For how long would that go on?
Oh, God, that might have went on for hours. It kept us down. Yeah, kept us down most of the day. We serviced at night. We had a service at night to charge your batteries. Of course, you live on batteries underwater. Yeah. 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 Quite an experience. And
I can't remember if you told me before, but about how long would a patrol last?
60 days.
60?
Yeah. 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 You actually run out of food after a while, you know. Yeah. So I said we drank we drank Klim, K-L-I-M. It was milk, spelled backwards. That was the waterized version of milk. And of course, you didn't get any fresh fruit or anything,
Like
so.
powdered milk?
Powdered milk, yeah, exactly what it was, yeah.
Okay.
But it was spelled K-L-I-M. Yeah. So you get used to eating other things, you know. And we had, if anybody's birthday had come up, they have a little cake or something like that. And they had a lot of what they call cribbage. They played cribbage in those days.
Oh, yeah?
We had tournaments. I didn't play. I played cards, but not cribbage. I never learned how to play cribbage. We had the tournaments. And I used to, I liked to draw. So we had like the newspaper come out once a week. The radio man put a little paper out. What happens? You know, what's happening with different guys. They had anniversaries and birthdays and this and that. And I would draw pictures in there, you know, cartoons. Yeah. So.
Did you hang on to any of those?
No, I never did. No, that was, we weren't supposed to save anything, you know, because it would have the ships, because we used to dump our garbage at night and we used to weigh it down with weights, different type weights, throw them in the garbage, burlap bag or whatever they used, and that would sink, because the garbage could give you a multitude of information in garbage, yeah. Garbage is a tough thing to get rid of. Either you burn it or you have to sink it.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Because you find a bag of garbage, there's always going to be something in there about the ship.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's good. What was your skipper's name?
Joseph Enright. We had 3 skippers. We started off with John Keel, K-I-E-L, K-I-E-H-L. And then we got a guy named Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, and the last captain was Enright, E-N-R-I-G-H-T, yeah. Very nice man. They were all good skippers. The first skipper went haywire. The pressure was too much. He had to be relieved of duty, and the executive officer took over the duties of captain because he got sick. He fell down and hurt his head, and they had to put him in the bunk. And we didn't have any doctors aboard. We had a pharmacist mate, and he would take care of us. Any injuries we had or sickness, yeah. So. Yep, they were all good captains. They got us back alive. That's why we all wanted to make sure you got back alive, you know. So, of course, 52 boats did to come back. We lost over 3,000 men, yeah.
Yeah. So you were in a long time, from 42
To 46,
to 46
yeah,
after the war.
yeah. Well, I was regular Navy. And my serial number was 225-0033, USN. Because most of the guys were reservists that went in. They went in for the end of the war plus 6 months. And they all went out. So when the war ended, we had all new guys. They went out on points.
Yeah.
You know, so many years overseas and this and that, yeah. And of course we got 50% more pay than the regular sailor of our rank, you know, which was an incentive too when you come
Yeah.
right down to it. And I was lucky I took the different tests and I made first class, which was pretty good, first class videos. So I was sending home money to my mom because my father was an alcoholic and she had the rest of the family to feed and everything. So all that money I sent home got her through the war.
How many in your family?
We had eight altogether, including me.
And where'd you fall in that?
Number one.
Oldest, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, so you did feel quite a responsibility,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because being my father was an alcoholic, he'd work part-time and be sick, and you couldn't depend on him it was weekly salary. He was an electrician for the subway system in New York City.
So when you came home, what did you do?
But when I came home, of course, it was peacetime. It was in April 6th, I think, I got out, and I come in, walked in the house, and says, "I'm home, Mom." Had my sea bag, and
Was she expecting you, or didn't know at that time?
what's that?
Did she not know you were on your way?
Yeah, I told her, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they had a dog, the dog didn't take a liking to my uniform. He kept nipping at me and everything else, so that was a new experience, the dog. So, yeah. But everybody was glad to see me. And so I said, well, now I got to get a job. So I looked in the newspapers and classified ads, and I saw the Maritime Commission was hiring ex-Navy people, and they were bringing all the old Liberty ships up into the Hudson River and dry docking them there, you know, putting them out in the middle of the river, anchoring them. And so at one time there was 300 ships in the middle of the Hudson. And I worked the launch that took people back and forth to the mothership, the one that had the steam up and everything, yeah. So we had about 400 people working on the ships. Got them in shape, got rid of all the stuff that they didn't need, and sold them to foreign countries for $1. And they take them down to the James River in Virginia. And they kept them down there till they were ready to go to whatever country got them, yeah.
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 When did you get married?
Well, the first thing is I got the job, and we used to go to a pizza place. That was our hangout for the guys that come out of the service, and the girls would be down there. So my sister was among the girls, so she introduced me to my wife, who became my wife, and we eloped. We didn't have any money to get married. We eloped and went to Elkton, Maryland. and got married there July 7th, 1947. And we come home, and she went to her house, and I went to my house. We didn't tell anybody who were married at the time, you know. So it finally had to come out, so. Then we had our first child in 1948. And, so I had 6 children.
6?
2 boys and 4 girls, yeah. And my oldest daughter is 73. She was just 73, yeah. Had a good family. And in the meantime, I took the test for, I wanted to become a fireman. So I went down to the Civil Service Commission in Yonkers, and they said, oh, we just had the test. You're too late for that test, but we have a police officer's test. I said, okay, when's that coming? So I studied, went to school for a police officer, and I passed the test and went on in 1947. Went on the police department. And Yonkers had about 800 policemen. And over a period of years, I took promotional test, and I finally made captain. And I retired after 27 years of service. I retired at 49 years old, and moved the family to Florida, because that was the thing to do in those days, to move to Florida. So in 1974, we moved to Florida, and I got a position with the school system, Broward County school system, as a security specialist. They took ex-policemen and put them in the schools to keep law and order, trying to keep law and order anyway. So I stayed with the school system for about 12 years, and retired at 62, Social Security. Moved to North Carolina because my daughter moved up there with a baby, and we helped watch the baby while she worked. And that was my introduction to Raleigh. I was the first visit. I stayed there till my wife got lung cancer. I said I want to move back to New York and be with the big hospital up there, try to help her out. So she passed away, and I was in New York at the time, so I stayed in New York because I had family up there. So that's more or less.
My dad was a police officer.
Yeah.
In Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
For probably about 23 years.
Yeah. Did you ever hear of Irondale?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I watch my Catholic masses from. The church.
Yeah, the EWTN.
EWTN, yeah.
I know exactly where it is.
Mhm.
I lived in Irondale for a while.
You've done something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my niece's husband is, I don't know if he still is doing it. He might be. He sings. I don't know what you call him, but he will sing for some of the masses.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Lucas.
Uh-huh.
And I'll try to find a picture and show you, see if you recognize him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is he part of the EWTN?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lucas, see, I hear that name, Lucas. I'm pretty sure I heard that name a few times.
I'll find a picture and show you.
He's not a musician, is he?
I think he just sings.
Sings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I heard that name. I think he's one of the choir, yeah. He's been with them a long time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's the same Lucas, yeah.
Well, that's small
right.
world.
Yeah, small world is right. When you start to...
Irondale's not very big at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just outside of Birmingham. And
Yeah.
Most people know it either for EWTN or fried green tomatoes.
Fried green tomatoes, yeah.
Yeah, the movie that came out
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
That Fannie Flagg, who wrote the book,
Mm-hmm.
kind of based it on a little diner that was in Irondale.
Yeah. But there was a diner in Florida. Green tomatoes.
Maybe so.
Yeah. It was like a buffet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. Good food. Yeah.
Now, I ask a lot of the veterans this, and we kind of touched on it before the video, but do you have any advice to younger generations, life advice?
Well, today it's an upside down world after all this, with the pandemic and all, and an awful lot of teaching going on in the schools that is more on the liberal side. They're teaching, Black Lives Matter and all this stuff, and I think we're losing our patriotic fervor that we had during my time.
Yeah.
During my time, you would never talk against your country or step on the flag or burn a flag or anything like that. You know, that was bad. And that's why I would like to get back to the old days of teaching about the country.
Yeah.
And the famous people. Never mind knocking the statues down and burning things, famous buildings and stuff like that. It's a shame what's going on now. Yeah.
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 I was just downtown this morning looking around, and I saw some, I guess it's a monument or statue or something that's covered up with canvas or something.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's
just
probably,
assuming it was for that reason.
Yeah. It's a shame to see a country like go down like that. Yeah. Instead of being proud of it, they're ashamed of it. It starts at home with the teaching of your parents, of course, but when you get into the classroom, you're at the wishes of the teacher, or whatever she wants to teach, you know. They have their own curriculum, and it's getting more and more liberal now and anti-American, which I don't like. And if you talk to any veteran, even the Korean and Vietnam veterans, they'll tell you the same thing. The country's going to hell. America is the best country in the world. Look at these thousands and thousands of people. Now they're coming from Russia and Romania and all across the border.
Yeah.
Not only the South American countries, but they're going to take advantage. We don't know who's coming in now. They're getting by, and it's a shame. It's a shame. Life is so short. Even though I live to be 96, it goes by fast. You don't think so, but it does. Because when you're younger, it's always something doing, you know. Somebody's having a baby or this or that, and But there's no country like this.
Yeah.
It's the best country in the world. Why does everybody want to come to this country? Yeah.
We spoke earlier about faith, and you figure that's why you are here now?
Yes.
Because you could have been on the Dorado.
Yes. Pre-designed life made out for you. You know, there's a reason for everything, I say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what my wife always says.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. You're at the right place at the right time, but the wrong place at the wrong time. But that's life. And I say my prayers each night that the Lord spares me and spares the family. Yep. I don't want to see them go through a war like we did.
Yeah.
And one good thing about the war is it's just like when the towers were bombed. It brought the country together. I never saw so many American flags on pickup trucks and cars. Almost every car had a flag on it, after the towers were bombed. Yeah, it brought the country back together again.
That's true.
As one. Yeah, yeah.